Joey, want this seat? Joey, why don't you take this seat?
No, I'm good. I'm too nervous.
Oh, you don't want to sit? No, I don't think. Is Dina gonna be here?
Pardon?
Is Dina coming?
Yeah, she's not coming.
Everything, both stations.
Partner, I'm trying to find somebody.
How is it?
I can't say I don't know him very well because, neither one of us work at the office.
Oh, no?
So I met him at like potlucks and stuff, so.
Right.
That's about it.
Dwayne's coming for in a car. See you.
No, I think that's meant for Mark. I think that's meant for Mark. I could ask Linda,
We good? We good?
let me see if
No. No, text me. I'm live. Okay, love you, bye.
Is that the X? Now they got the X.
Does it have turbocharged and four-wheel drive?
No, it's about
Hi. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, how are you? Hi. It won't click onto the thing though. Yes, it will. Okay, let me figure it out. I see. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, but I thought the story like
Here we go. I'm learning as I go.
Hey,
How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Good. It's nice to see you.
You too.
Yeah. Yeah, just call me.
I'll text you.
You wanna go there?
No,
Hello, how are you doing? I'm gonna take a photo.
I'm part of the press, but I'm not.
I understand. That's why I didn't want to get you like this. That's what I was telling you.
Not really, I'm not supposed to make it, I'm just supposed to write.
Okay, I understand. Write the story. I'll be a part of the story.
Don't waste paper. Unless I'm writing a column.
How are you?
Final column. How are you?
Thank you.
So I think he's gonna make good today.
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mayor Pro Tem Osnick will now give the invocation.
Make the decisions we have here, be fair and just for all. Amen.
Okay, roll call please.
Here.
Costanzo.
Here.
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum. Are there any requests for agenda changes?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I have
Okay,
two agenda items I'd like to add. I'd like to add item number 2 in unfinished business, the discussion on sidewalks and crosswalks across our city
excuse me, what?
and crosswalks.
Okay.
And add as item number 3 in unfinished business, the Supreme Court ruling, Reed versus Town of Gilbert in our sign ordinance.
That's under new business you want?
No, as item number 3 under unfinished business.
Okay, is there anybody else have anything? Okay. Approval of the minutes, do I have a motion to approve the minutes from August 20th, 2019?
So moved.
Support. Any discussion?
Yes, Madam Mayor. The minutes as presented to us for approval tonight, I feel that there's numerous and significant omissions to the record, and for that, I'm opposed to the approval of the minutes.
Anybody else? Roll call please.
Ambrose.
Yes.
Costanzo.
No.
Black. Woodland.
Yes.
Osnick.
Yes.
Robertson.
Yes.
Yes.
Ackley.
Okay. We'll move into audience participation. Why don't you go ahead and read the audience participation rules if you would, please?
There shall be one agenda item for audience participation immediately following the approval of the minutes. When a person desires to speak, he or she must first be recognized by the mayor, then stand and state his or her name and address. Individual persons shall be allowed 3 minutes to address the council, unless such a period of time is extended by a majority vote of the council. No member of the audience may speak more than once without the consent of a majority of the council present. No member of audience may speak during any other part of the meeting without majority consent of the council present. Members of council may direct a question to a member of the audience after recognition by the chair, and that person may give an answer. At the discretion of the chair, members of the audience addressing council shall come before the podium.
Thank you. Okay, when you come up to speak, again, please give your name, your address, write it on the slip of paper, and the length of time is 3 minutes, so if you can hold it as close to 3 minutes, I'm not gonna cut you out in the middle of a word, but try to wrap it up. Okay? There's a lady there in the black and white, please.
Hello. My name is Dee Prophet Aegis. I've lived in and around Wall Lake for my entire life. I went to Wall Lake, all the Wall Lake schools from elementary to high school, graduating from Wall Lake Western in the 70s. I went to college at OU, earned a bachelor's degree, all the while living in Wall Lake. I raised both my kids here. Both of them graduated from Wall Lake Western, just like me. My dad, Paul Prophet, was a local builder, building inspector, who actually took part in building the original library and police station in the old part of the building back in the day. Wall Lake's my home now, always has been, always will be. The reason I'm here tonight is to speak on, my address is I live on Lookout Drive in Wall Lake. The reason I'm here tonight is to speak out on the misinformation and ignorance surrounding the question of the marijuana dispensaries in our town. I'm sad to say I've heard some incredibly uninformed and backward thinking about cannabis here in Wall Lake. Some of it so ridiculous it reminds me of reefer madness. But this is not 1930. The race baiting and fear mongering that I've heard and read in online discussions insults the intelligence of every person in Wall Lake. I pray that all the nonsense and bigotry falls on deaf ears. But just in case it doesn't, I'd like to set the record straight about medical marijuana and how it affects the people in the cities where it's allowed to thrive. We can't afford to let lies and ignorance rule the day. In February, my husband and I will celebrate our 35th wedding anniversary, but my husband would not be here to celebrate if it weren't for the availability of medical marijuana and Rick Simpson oil, a derivative of marijuana that's known for successfully treating everything from epilepsy to Parkinson's disease. Several years ago, Jimmy, my husband, a Vietnam veteran local chef, was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. The doctors proceeded to give us the death lecture. The prognosis was way too bleak for me to accept. I researched alternatives to what they just told us. That was more than 5 years ago. Not only is my husband still alive and healthy, not blind, not missing any limbs, he no longer requires insulin injections of any kind. This is largely due to marijuana. He was able to take a pearl-sized drop of Rick Simpson oil every morning with his coffee, and we soon began to understand why scientists and doctors have called Rick Simpson oil the fountain of youth. Within 6 months, we were able to step the insulin down. He was completely free of any signs of diabetes. Unfortunately, he's still old, but he's just no longer sick. He now has normal blood sugar, no insulin of any kind, and he's 76 years old. The miracle medicine that turned my husband's health around is only available at medical marijuana dispensaries. When dispensaries in this area closed down, it created quite a hardship for my husband and I and forced us to spend money in other counties that we would have spent locally for our medicine. Both of us are senior citizens with mobility issues, and long trips aren't easy on us. We and many other senior citizens in the area need access to safe, legal cannabis, which is our medicine. I appreciate Wall Lake finally allowing the opening of a dispensary here, but I hope and pray that you will not overburden this new industry with too much regulation. To do so would make it too expensive for them to operate, sending hundreds of medical marijuana patients, all adults over 21, out of town or into the unregulated black market to get their medicine like the old days. Nobody wants that. Wall Lake has many other businesses that sell substances much more harmful than marijuana. The city of Wall Lake did not attempt to stop or overregulate all the places that sell coffee and caffeine products, alcohol, cigarettes. All of those are responsible for thousands of deaths every year. Now, does anyone know how many deaths the smoking, ingesting, or applying cannabis products have caused? Not one. Not even the DEA, the Drug Enforcement Agency, admits that there has never been a single overdose death from the use of marijuana. The enforcement of arcane marijuana prohibition laws, however, have destroyed hundreds and hundreds of lives and must be stopped. We can do better here in Michigan and in Walled Lake. Marijuana was legalized through a majority of the electorate, and yet a year more later, we're still trying to stifle its development. It doesn't make sense. Not only does the legal sale of marijuana generate millions in tax revenue for the city that allows them to locate there, it raises property values for everyone who lives there. That's right, marijuana coming to town does not lower property values, and many fearmongers have suggested. Studies show it does just the opposite. Research from the Cato Institute found that single-family homes within 1/10 of a mile of a cannabis retailer increased 8.5% to 10% in value compared to homes located slightly further away from the dispensary. In Colorado, the home values in some cities that had at least one dispensary increased at nearly double the average rate than they did nationally. In Sheridan, Colorado, a community roughly 10 miles south of Denver, home values have increased over 90% since January 2014 and January 2019. And one more thing, you'll be happy to know that the new research shows that crime rates drop substantially in areas with marijuana dispensaries. This study, just published this month in the Journal of Regional Science and Urban Economics, analyzed crime data from Denver between 2013 and December 2016. Colorado, which legalized marijuana nearly 2 decades ago, kicked off sales of recreational pot in 2014. The results show that an additional dispensary in a neighborhood leads to a reduction of 17 crimes per month per 10,000 residents, which corresponds to roughly a 19% decline relative to the average crime rate over the same sample period. That's in the study. This may be in part due to the fact that the marijuana legalization frees up hundreds of police man hours to investigate and solve more serious crimes in the area, rather than having to chase after nonviolent and now legal marijuana growers and sellers. Please don't allow old racial tropes and Vietnam-era fears to close your mind to the potential of marijuana-based products and the success of the businesses that sell them. Walled Lake deserves better. Let's let them be here.
Diane?
Thank you. I'm never what you promised me, Bob. I just wanted to make a statement that I won't be giving my name and address because I'm in fear of someone that's in the audience, and I will take up my issue with Chelsea tomorrow at City Hall.
Can you pull the
Thank
mic
you.
closer to you so I can hear you?
I think you heard me. Did you hear me?
I only heard part
Because
of it.
you know what, I'm hard of
If
hearing
you pull the
too.
mic closer to you,
Okay.
that's all I asked you to do. I heard
Okay.
parts of what you said.
All right, there's
I got the
someone
gist
in
of
the
it.
audience I don't care to have my name and address. So I will take up the issue
I
I'm
would like your
concerned
name and
about.
address written down,
No, I won't do it. Thank you.
okay? Who's next, please? Mr. Novak. Wolfson, I'm sorry, I called you Novak, I'm sorry. I'm sorry,
Okay,
right board, wrong person.
okay, it's good, I hope. My name is Neil Wolfson, I live at 565 Wynwood Court. Want to talk a little bit about this petition that's been sent to the state about putting for state for review for Take Back Walled Lake ballot question at committee to amend the city charter to cap the job of city manager with a retroactive 10-year term limit. I'd like to just address this. It's my understanding the current city manager, Dennis Witt, was hired in 2010 and is currently 2 years into a 5-year contract, which expires 2023. If this amendment is approved, it appears the city would be liable for an estimated $500,000 in severance and other payments, not to mention additional costs in finding and hiring a new city manager. It appears the reason for this petition is to have the city manager removed because of unsatisfactory performance or nefarious actions on his part, and what appear to be personal vendettas from various individuals. Based on the city council minutes of January 2019, Councilmember Gabe Costanzo made a motion declaring city manager Dennis Witt annual review and performance evaluation for the prior year to be satisfactory. The city council unanimously approved the motion. Mr. Witt was hired in 2010 on a trial period to determine if he could do what he said he could do, to get the city out of the financial mess it was in. After a few years, he was able to show that he could deliver. The city council then negotiated a multi-year contract with Mr. Witt, and he is now 2 years into a new five-year contract. All one has to determine if Mr. Witt is performed as he said he is to review the past 10 years of the audited financial statements and statements made by the auditors. In addition, if he did perform as stated, the city council would not have given him another contract. If this amendment is approved, it could not only hamstring the city council from keeping any potential future city manager, but finding a replacement with the expertise that is needed very difficult. In this day and age, you need people with a good education and the expertise in order to perform the jobs that the city council and the city administration has to do. It is my opinion this amendment is not in the best interest of the city of Walled Lake or its citizens. I would implore them to not vote in favor of it. Since Mr. Witt came on board, along with the current mayor and most of the current city council have been doing their job. Working together, what I mean by that, there's a few people on the board who have word here, on the city council, who hired Mr. Witt, who brought him in after they looked at about 60 different applications. So working together, they were able to keep the city from going into bankruptcy or having the governor appoint an emergency manager. I believe this city manager, this mayor, and city council already have taken Walled Lake back from the brink of disaster. Not only have they done this, they have also been looking forward. By promoting from within, they retained personnel with experience while working for Walled Lake. The current police and fire chief have worked their way up from the ranks and were promoted to their current positions by Mr. Witt, with approval of city council. The chiefs have an exemplary job, and under their leadership, their departments have improved and been outstanding in their performance. Mr. Witt has also implemented various department heads to hold multiple positions, allowing for cost savings. He has also worked with the city clerk, assistant city manager, and others to advance their education to be a greater asset to the city and mentors them for future advancement. This experience is invaluable for the future of the city. To finalize, I could go into a lot of different things that went over the 10 years, but that would take up a lot of time. To finalize, this city manager, mayor, city council, police and fire chiefs, police and fire personnel, city clerk, assistant city manager, director of finance and budget, DPW personnel, and other city personnel have taken back Walled Lake. They have put Walled Lake on a sound financial footing. There's still work to be done. Let these people continue to do what is good for Walled Lake. How about working together with your city manager, with your council, with your mayor? We can solve a lot of problems if we work together. Don't cut off your nose and spite your face. Thank you.
just state my address as Ms. Ambrose and the news and everybody are here. I'll write it down on
Are
the.
you gonna write it down?
Yep, I'll write it
Okay,
down,
well,
but
that's
I really
fine.
don't want it publicly, put on channel 2. Mr. Witt.
Can you give us the first name or something?
Tina, I'm sorry, Tina Firstep. I'm sure it's Lee found, but I'm not gonna just provide it. Mr. Witt, I saw you in my neighborhood the other day, when the road was flooded. Do we have any update for Tri-A? Any update about millage? You drove through the other day when the roads were completely covered.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
Pause my time, please.
I'll answer a question, that's not what we normally do, but she's right.
This is the 4th time we've been here to ask if we have an update. Yeah.
She's wrong.
I know, but I'm saying this is like the 4th or 5th month, and it's been a year since we talked about a millage.
He's trying to.
I know, I was explaining why I was asking.
You're right, I'm in the neighborhood every day since it began, every day. Every Sunday, I think I told you on a Sunday, maybe it was a Saturday. I went there because of the flooding. The flooding was over the street further down, it was even worse from your place, you live, I know where you live.
Yep, I saw.
The flooding is because it's a low area, and it was a damage, it did do damage to what we had already fixed in terms of the fixing. So the flooding is a different issue. We immediately moved to getting funding to fix the flooding and fix the roads. We're not there yet. But your question, I think, was about the project that we're nearly completed in terms of the underground work. We are not nearly completed on the top of the ground. We're gonna have to bring the contractors back in. The flooding did wash away some of the fresh topsoil because it hadn't had time to grow and lock it in. So we're gonna be doing improvements there. What I did notice, and maybe you will agree, maybe you won't, that the water for the first time is flowing in a way.
It is flowing.
And
is flowing.
that was the major improvement to that area. That's what we predicted. That's what our engineer predicted. That if we're downstream, we start in area 8 and we work all the way to your area, that getting the water to flow is the important part. We can't fix your level. You know, you in particular, where you're at is one of the lowest areas in that area. I think that house down the street.
Yeah, I sit up high and low.
But it's a very low area, everybody knows that. I've been with the council members that have ridden with me on Saturday and Sunday. Councilmember Ambrose has been there, Councilmember Osnick, we've all been there. The pond, in fact, I got a call from one of the council members who said there was a lake out front, and that was the council member, and I went over there and it was flooded, it was all the way across that road, which is, again.
Normally, we don't get it at Omega.
But the key is that the flow, if the water was moving, and I've been here for 10 years almost, and the water never moved like that before. We couldn't see it if it was after we got fixed, but this allowed us to see that it's actually working. You're going to see, or you did see, a big improvement in terms of the water draining. Those areas, at least over by the councilman's house, drained off very rapidly. I was pretty surprised about that. We still have an issue with how low it is. That's gonna take more federal funding, it's gonna take expertise to get grants that are available to fix yours. You have a unique situation over there. The neighbors are probably going to be concerned about the project got washed away. We are not going to abandon that. The contractors will be back in to remedy the
Yeah, it was posted on our Facebook page.
we
that
will be
one of
back
the
in,
people got
and then before that, the city manager's office, myself, and the coordinator, who's my assistant city manager, the engineer, we will have a meeting with that group, anybody in the Tri-A sub, the meeting, and we will do what we can do to remedy it, to make it that much better. That's where we are on it. I don't know as of today whether they fixed any of the washed away stuff,
No.
probably not. We will have meetings tomorrow with the engineering people and the contractors, I believe that's all scheduled. And so that's where we are on it. We're not, even when the contractor's gone, they're doing the underground stuff. But we're not gonna abandon you. We are going to we're gonna find a solution to the lower ground and the roads.
Okay,
There is no
that's,
solution, there is no solution to bucks. We've not gone to the council and asked for tax increases because we don't have a plan to fund. It's foolish to try to say we can raise the millage until we have a plan of what's gonna cost. We're still working on that. Your fire hydrants should be working, you're safe. In today's media, if you check that media, you saw where, there was no fire hydrants wasn't working. Jim, did you get the copy of that?
I did.
What was the city that was in?
That was in Detroit.
The
Detroit
issue was they didn't even know their fire hydrants didn't work. I took the hit because I went public and told you out loud, your fire hydrants are not working. They're working now. So we dealt with public safety issue first. We're doing the flooding second. The roads are coming.
Okay, well, I just know when we talked a year ago, it was, we're probably gonna have to do a millage because there's many other neighborhoods that need it to be done. And it's been a year and we hadn't heard anything yet.
It's the biggest project facing Wall Lake. Yours is the biggest problem, but every city, even the high end, the higher ground people, because of the weather, they all need streets. No matter where you go, they need improvements. Decker is the gateway to our city and it needs improvement. We believe we got a solution there, a little time. Your solution's tougher, but we got your public safety issue solved. Now we gotta get the flooding thing is better. It's not good because you're low ground, but your roads we will get fixed too.
Yeah, I did have 9 stitches from my head from slipping in the road where all the gravel and potholes were and slammed into the garbage can a couple weeks ago. Part of it was my fault.
I didn't assign fault.
No. Part of it was my fault because I was trying not to touch a garbage can, so I pulled it with my shirt, went to spin it around, slipped on the gravel, stepped on that thing, and smashed my head. And
I heard
luckily, I have wonderful
I'm very
neighbors
proud of my
and
people that took care of it.
wonderful EMTs. So I'm very glad that I voted yes for the bond or
That's
the
all I
millage.
got for you.
We appreciate it. So I'll report back to Trey.
I appreciate you acknowledging that I was there. That was a Sunday or a Saturday. Don't remember which.
I've seen you a couple times.
I'm there.
I'm usually hiding behind my car because I was in my pajamas all the time. My special needs kiddo wanted to go outside, and that was it.
That's
He
part
was
of my
going.
10 hours a week that I put in.
My other thing, and I know I'm not supposed to address the audience, so I'm not going to turn around and address them. The news are here. We are an embarrassment. This entire city. I read your wife's comments. I've seen people taking our candidates' names and buying their domains, if I'm using the correct terminology. We've got people leaking reports who are supposed to be sealed, damaging a man's life, when, according to the report, it was invalid. I knew this election would be nasty because 3 of you are up, and with Mr. Costanzo, and if we get 3 more in, it's gonna take the majority. I knew this was gonna be nasty, but this is sickening. This is absolutely sickening, and it's embarrassing. I'm not happy with a lot of what you guys have done, and I've also admitted that I know I'm not going to be happy with everything you've done. But I don't think you're holding the best interest. And now if we could just have a fair fight, a fair fight. If you want to attack Ms. Potter on something that's fair, I was told by a mutual kind of acquaintance who's a firefighter's wife that she's telling everyone to vote no on the millage. She told me to vote yes. She said we don't want to lose our police and fire, but yet it's out there that she's saying no. Just stop. All of you, just stop. It's sick. We're sick of it.
You gotta expose them when you can, right?
That's right.
That's right. You know where we live.
We'll set you free.
Shorty.
Hi. Thank you. My name is Callie Aegis. I live at 1600 Lookout. All right. I live in a war zone every day. There is a war on women. Gloria Allred, 2018. We must be strong and we must be fearless when confronting the dangers in our local communities. As most of you know, I've been involved in an ongoing investigation regarding an alleged homegrown sexual predator and his enabling mother since early July. I and other alleged victims of the Makowski family have been treated with respect from the Walled Lake Police Department and City Council. We've been listened to and taken seriously in a world that is systemically designed to work against us. But most importantly, they believe us. The owner of the studio, Dory Matkowski, admitted that her son Tyler had a dangerous problem in an email shortly after the notorious Facebook thread went viral. It was wise and unprecedented of the city manager and city council to completely cut ties with Dance Dynamics pending the ongoing and current criminal investigations. I and thousands of alleged victims and their supporters nationwide commend you for taking our allegations and our safety so seriously. I would also like to show gratitude to our local community for their continued support in our efforts. We will be having our third Stand in Solidarity event this next Saturday, September 28th, on the public property in front of the fire station from 12 to 4. Victims and their supporters will be gathering to spread continued awareness and information for victims everywhere. We will wear teal ribbons to promote awareness against the insidious nature of sexual harassment, assault, rape, and body shaming. And I invite anyone to attend who feels awareness against sexual misconduct is vitally important to the safety of our community. Yes, this used to be just about a single local family and their businesses, but through shared trauma, we've created a community of supporters who span much further than the alleged victims of the Matkowski family. We've created a platform. We, as members of the shared communities, have a duty to shine a bright light of truth upon dangerous people. I'm proud to live in a place where knowledge is power and our safety is valued. I will continue to encourage an environment where sexual predators and bigots are publicly outed, especially when they are local business owners or in a potential position of power like city council candidates, Rick Greenwell and Jeff Rondo. We can't win the war through surrender. We must keep up the fight. Thank you, Walled Lake, for doing better and being on the right side of history. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Darlene Ciampa. I prefer not to give my address. I'm gonna write it down now. And I would like to echo Tina's plea for a fair and impartial and attack-free election, where people aren't attacked. They're not accused of being a racist or a bigot. They haven't been convicted in a court of law, but they've been convicted in the court of public opinion. There's due process that's allowed with every legal proceeding, except in Walled Lake. There are city council persons who have been removed that were told at their hearing that they gave up their constitutional rights when they became a city council member. And that's absolutely shameful. And the way that candidates are being treated is not only shameful, it's illegal. And it should be brought to the media's attention. I'm personally glad he's here, because I want to bring attention. I want to stand up and show everybody what the city is really all about. Because the candidates are going to bring us to where we should be, not where we are right now. Thank you.
To your face.
Yes. Jerry Anderson, 127 South Pontiac Trail. On a little lighter note, I'd like to bring some information, maybe a couple observations. I belong to LAHA, the Lakes Area Homeowners Association. Last Tuesday at the Lake Board meeting, they voted unanimously to extend the invasive weed control on our lake. And to me, that's a wonderful thing. It's been I think we've been working on the lake this will be the 5 years, and then this is the next extension. I want to thank Councilmember Ambrose for being on the board. And we get an opportunity. It's not easy when you got Novi and Walled Lake trying to cooperate on an issue, but yet it works. It works very well. What we're going to do is another 5 years, continue to work invasive weeds. you can't, it's almost like your yard or your house maintenance is required, and it's been recognized, and they've done a very good job. You can tell by the interest. Mercer Beach is probably our most used public property, especially during the summer months. People are coming to Walled Lake not maybe as a destination, but we're more than a pass-through town. With the quality of the lake improving every year, you see some remodeling, a couple new houses. It seems like the energy is there. A couple things don't want to. Walled Lake also has identified storm drains that go into the lake, and trying to figure out. We have pipes that aren't even on maps that have been identified. Maybe try and understand what's running into the lake and try and stop it. One thing I do appreciate the city trying to do is in the upper subs, not use fertilizer that in the watershed that washes into the lake that creates algae blooms and more weeds. It's a big, big problem. Another problem is the overpopulation of geese. We fund a program to, in the spring, round up goose nests and eggs to try and reduce the population. This year, we're working with the people at Shawwood Lake, which is a little lake down at the end that's tied to Walled Lake, and that's a haven for geese. So hopefully, spring of 2020, we're able to do that area too and try and help reduce the goose population, because the E. coli and the droppings, everyone understands the problems that geese bring. One other thing, again, is the weeds in the lake move from lake to lake, they believe, because people do not wash off their boats and trailers. Oakland County is buying 2 power wash units that will be available to local cities like us, that maybe we could use the DPW, and spring and fall, when there's a fishing tournament where boats are coming from other lakes to our lake, they could bring it up here, wash the boats off, and maybe help ensure that we're not spreading other weeds into our lake. We've already got a new one called Stony Starwort, and there's other things that are coming. So we're somewhat naive to believe that there's something in one lake that we won't get it. Eventually you do, like zebra mussels and things like that. But with some of these efforts, I really believe it'll be very helpful. Goose. I guess the other thing would be is that the passing of the police millage by such a large margin, I think, kind of shows the residents have some faith in what we're doing. The school millage passing, you got to have quality schools to attract people that want to live here. My kids and now my grandkids have used up Walled Lake schools. Varying degree of success. No. But that being said, the rails and trails opening up, again, studies say that they actually enhance property value with people that are near the trails. Hopefully it sparks some investment. Now you can go from, the east side all the way down towards Ann Arbor, and I think this is just wonderful. So that being said, it feels like there's some new energy between the beach party, fireworks, a few things going on. Hopefully we can continue to move forward. Thank you.
Is there anyone else?
Good afternoon. I got a question for you. I want this on record. You can either sit there and make a motion to answer this question, or you can give me authority. Make a motion. Have someone make a motion, someone second it to allow me to ask a question, or you can sit there. Okay, does this city council and the city recognize my jurisdiction? And I want that by vote.
Yes,
On the record.
I don't understand your question.
I'm running on the record. I want to know if you understand my jurisdiction.
What jurisdiction regarding what?
I'm going to ask your question. Answer for mine. You're recognized by Thursday?
If I understood what your question was, I answered it.
Here. Yes, baby. Right there. Okay.
Okay, I can see it on the podium. Was the microphone? Oh, okay. That is the one in the front, not him, the gentleman at the club. Okay, I think the lady in the front in the red, had her hand up.
My name is Marlene, and I've been a taxpayer of your salary since '89. I will not
Please
give,
put your name and address on the piece of paper.
according to the Open Meetings Handbook Act on page 13, I'm not required to give my address. I live on
According to the
Neptune.
policy of the city of Wall Lake, I'm asking you to put your name and your address on there. As soon as audience participation is over with, the treasurer will pick that up, or the finance director will pick that list up and hand it to the city clerk. I am asking you before you speak to put your name and your address down.
I am not going to do that because according to the handbook of the Open
According to
Meetings
the
Act,
rules of
page,
council policy, Mr. Attorney,
where could I reference that rule?
Mr. Attorney.
The long-standing rule and policy of the local city council dating back decades, that people who want to address the council during the public comment section of the meeting, state their name and provide their address.
Is that written for the public to view?
So if you want to speak, please put your name and address on the paper. If you
According
don't,
to
if
the
you don't want to
handbook,
put your name and address on the paper, I'm sorry.
where can I reference that rule? Is it a verbal rule or is it a written rule?
It's a written policy of the city council.
Where can I reference that?
You can get it from the city clerk tomorrow.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who'd like to get up and speak?
This guy right here.
Sandra, are you locked in? Okay, if we're done with audience participation. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see a hand. In the middle, no, sir, I'm sorry. I said to anybody and I didn't see a hand, I'm sorry. I couldn't even see your face from here. Okay.
My name is Randy Champ. I live at 1275 Leon Road. My family's been in the city for nearly 100 years. There's a lot of things going on. I'm going to take a half step back to a couple of things that just recently passed. I'm unlikely to change at this point, but I'd like to know how I can get a copy of whatever agreement the city made with Schaefer Development, if I can simply request that, or if I need to do a FOIA request, so I know what they may or may not be complying with, including the 20 to 25 foot buffer that they told us they were gonna do, that they did not leave adjacent to my property. In fact, there's silt fences on my property, and I pointed out to Dan or Dennis or somebody with the city that was there the day after. This is still stressful. Past that, who do I ask and tell or request that one of the casualties of the development was a large buck, which is now dead and decaying about 30 feet from my property line. And the stench is so bad that I can't even walk outside. So who takes care of that? Do you call the development company? Do I call the health department, the police, the fire, DNR? Who's gonna get rid of this thing? There are people out there working today and they just ignored it. The stench is so bad, I had to cancel a barbecue, and it's just gut wrenching. Besides not seeing what's supposed to be there, I see what is there. So there's a dead buck 30 feet from my property line next door that probably got hit with one of the fallen trees or something, I don't know. But if somebody could either take care of that or tell me who else to call. And then how do I get a copy of whatever agreement the city made with Schaefer Development so that it might be a little apparent or more apparent of what they are and not complying with?
We can provide a copy, I mean, you could come in tomorrow, there's a FOIA, you ask them, you tell them, having a copy ready, you can go whenever you can.
Right. We all sat here when they said they'd give us a 20-25 foot buffer, and that didn't happen.
That part I don't know about, but I can get you that copy if you wanna leave an email, and we can have it actually, send a PDF copy of it.
Sure.
Even better.
And as far as the buck going on the property, I think you're surmising that it was killed by something on the property. Who knows how it died?
Who knows? It's just that it hasn't happened in the last.
I would assume that possibly a call to the developer. Maybe. We'll work something out.
Please, it's gut wrenching.
I'm sure this warm weather is not helping it any.
You dig a hole.
They can, if they've got the equipment, they can.
Yeah, but all their equipment.
But again, we're surmising how it died. We need to see an old buck. I don't know. Right.
I'm sorry, did you ask me to come in and estimate tomorrow, or I left my email?
PDF, and you can put it set, or that'll happen as soon as you leave.
Good night.
Now, are there any more hands? Okay, very good.
I know.
My name is Jay. I'm not going to state my address, but I'll leave it for you. I'm a little new to the politics here, so I'm just curious as to who is your boss?
Who is my boss?
Yes, ma'am.
I am the highest elected official in the city of Wall Lake.
In the city, how about on a state level? Who would you answer to there?
Say the Attorney General. That would be my, yeah. Please, a little bit of respect. You have a question?
I don't. Sure.
Okay, after he ended with this additional talk, then I wanna say something too.
If you give your name and address, you most certainly can. We need a formal vote if he's gonna speak the second time. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Is there a support? Roll call, please.
Costanzo?
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Woodland?
Yes.
Osnick?
Yes.
Robertson?
Yes.
Ambrose?
Yes.
Ackley?
Yes. Okay, now go ahead and.
Name's Neil Wolfson again, 565.
He's at home.
I met Randy a couple months ago
He went to the house.
at Lowe's parking lot.
Okay, please,
Yeah.
please.
He and Brian.
Yeah, I met Randy a couple months ago at Lowe's parking lot and talked a little bit about the Beechwood condos going up and stuff like that. Randy's not an unreasonable person. He's a good guy. We had a nice discussion, and I was trying to impress also the council. You're good people, not unreasonable people. The city clerks, the police, the fire chief, the finance director, I've talked to a number of you. Very reasonable, answer questions without any problem. All Randy has to do is come in to City Hall, talk to either the police or the city clerk or whatnot, and I'm sure it will be with the city manager, and it will be taken care of. That's what I found, that they get things done. Some things they can't get, but a lot of it they can. They will talk to you, they will work with you, if you're willing to work with them too. That's all.
And you are correct, the city staff handles the day operation. someone needs something, they contact them. And if they're denied, then by all means, they come to council and. Okay, is there anybody else who would like to speak? Once, twice, gone. Will you please pick up the list of names and addresses and either hang on to them till the meeting's over or however you want to have them. They're in your hands. We've had them disappear, so let's don't have them disappear again. Okay. Council report. Is there any council member who would like to make a report this evening? Yes, sir.
We got a couple of reports. First, the DDA met last Tuesday. At that time, it was requested that, or there was discussion about the businesses supporting a T-shirt for the people that were participating in the inaugural ride for the Rails to Trails, which is starting on Lake Michigan, which is going all the way through our community and numerous other communities to Lake Huron. At that time, it was suggested that the DDA could possibly pay for it as opposed to the individual businesses. So the DDA did participate in the purchase of approximately 60 shirts for the participants that were in the Rails to Trails. So it's a nice shirt. It's got the inaugural ride 2019 on the back. It has the DDA logo. They came through Walled Lake today. They had the ceremony over here at Gunner Mattel Park in Wixom. And they're moving on. They got a couple more day ride, but they will end up in Lake Huron, probably Port Huron, I believe. So that was all good. They were very appreciative. They extended their thanks to the city of Walled Lake and the DDA for that. Also, too, I'd like to thank Mr. Anderson for bringing to the attention in regards to the quality of our lakes since the Lake Board had been created. You can go on to Novi's website under Lake Board, and you can see the actual diagrams as far as the amount of weeds that we had in the lake to where we are today and control that has been implemented, and the amount of weeds that have been removed as far as the invasive species, which is an ongoing problem throughout the state because of both being transported from one lake to another. So those particular wash basins that Oakland County purchased hopefully will benefit us and probably stopping a lot of that crossing over from lake to lake of the invasive species when we have the activities on the lake. So, those are 2 reports.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Last weekend, I want to report that I attended the Wixom Block Party with the Michigan Airline Trailway. The group is spending a lot of time educating the public around the new road crossing signals. They are quite different than what we're used to seeing. So I would encourage everybody to check out the Michigan Airline Trailway website. They have a nice educational piece on there. One light is called a hawk light. The other is the RRFB light. One stops traffic, one does not stop traffic. So it is a little bit different light than we're used to seeing around the area. And I would encourage everybody to learn what these lights are. They're going to start installing them next week. And it's a very different type of light, so I would encourage everybody to look at it. The Trailway represented the municipalities very well, and the Friends of the Michigan Airline Trail, so they did a really nice job at the block party.
One more thing. Yes. The final asphalt paving of the Rails to Trails, the section that's missing between M5 and Haggerty Road, will be going down today. And then they're going to go through and put an additional 2-inch cap on the whole length of the trail. But we need to make everybody aware that in order to put this down, they put down an adhesive, a tar adhesive. So when you tell you the trail's closed, unless you want this black mucky stuff all over your tires and your body, stay off the trail. But that should be completed within the next 3 to 5 days based on weather. That's it.
The actual total system, I think, Kristen told me today, would be sometime towards mid-October.
Yes.
Before the lights are actually functioning and working.
Lights, ballards, and things.
So until that time, the trail is technically not officially open. I guess it right at the trail is still closed.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to mention one thing. There has been some reports from the Trailway that there has been acts of vandalism And they asked us to step up patrols, with the signs being thrown off the side of the road, the barricades. So from a public safety standpoint, they're asking each community to look for the acts of vandalism along the trail in their towns.
Okay, is there anybody else with any council reports? Okay, city manager.
Madam Mayor, Council, I request a motion to receive and file. the
Please
Department
use
of
your microphone.
Thank you. If you didn't hear me the first time,
No.
I would request that the mayor and the city council move to receive and file the departmental divisional statistical.
I'll make that motion.
And do I have support? Okay, I have a motion and support. Any comments this evening on the reports? Roll call, please.
Block,
Yes.
Lublin,
Yes.
Osnick,
Yes.
Robertson,
Yes.
Ambrose,
Yes.
Costanzo,
Yes.
Ackley.
Yes.
Couple more things, I actually gave in my response to one of the speakers, I gave you the update, and I think the people were here on where we are on the Tri-A and what we believe is improvement in the flow, which is gonna be a big improvement for the people who've had standing water for years in Tri. As I said earlier, we've not fixed the problem, in terms of the road covering and flooding, but it's draining quicker, substantially quicker. And that was obvious to anybody there, so, I think my remarks to her covers that report. We will not be leaving that Tri-A subdivision until we satisfy the homeowners. Meeting with